This analysis is presented purely for educational and historical documentation purposes. It does not promote, glorify, or encourage any form of illegal activity. For clarity and neutrality, all names and events are documented as part of open source research and public record. Viewer discretion is advised due to the subject matter's sensitive nature. Origins and early history. Temple Street, often shortened to TST or Vario Temple Street, traces its roots back to the 1920s in Los Angeles. Historians and local chroniclers note that its foundational family, known by the surname Templerosa, journeyed from Mexico to Texas and eventually to California. They settled in a neighborhood west of downtown Los Angeles near Temple Street and Coronado Street in what is now part of the Rampart district. Early members included individuals of Mexican-American heritage, but over time, the group became notably multi-ethnic, especially during the 1970s and 1980s, when it saw participation by Filipino Americans, as well as some white and black members. The name Temple Street came about because it was the street on which the founding families lived. As territorial identity became more established among various neighborhoods in Los Angeles, this circle began labeling itself as West Side Temple Street. Over decades, a series of interconnected yet distinct cliques and offshoots grew under the broader Temple Street identity. Ethnic diversity and notable offshoots. While Hispanics have always constituted the majority of Temple Street, the group's inclusivity saw the emergence of Filipino cliques such as the Pinoy Locos and an allied collective known as Satanas. Over time, some Filipino members branched off entirely. One example is Satanas forming its own identity in the 1970s. Similarly, Rebels 13 separated from Temple Street and became a separate entity, though it is said they maintained an amicable relationship with their original cohort. Expansion across regions. Temple Street's main territory is still closely associated with central Los Angeles, notably in areas west of downtown around Temple, Coronado, and surrounding streets. However, the name Temple Street did not remain confined to a single district. Beginning in the late 1970s and accelerating through the 1980s and early 1990s, several expansions took root in different areas. 1. South Los Angeles. A segment of Temple Street settled between Figueroa and Hoover, spanning roughly from 48th to 53rd Streets. Nicknamed the Tokers Clique, this group is sometimes referenced as Temple Street 52nd Tokers. They reportedly experienced disputes with South Central 18th Street and other local organizations in that vicinity. San Fernando Valley. In the Chatsworth area, members formed what is informally known as Vario Temple Street in the Valley. Within that region, they created two prominent cliques, Valley Tokers and Sir Demon Kings. Their known adversaries in this zone have included Canoga Park, Alabama, Blythe Street, Southside Reseda, and certain factions of 18th Street. Other locations. Temple Street's influence has been noted in regions such as Glendale, Long Beach, Palmdale, Lancaster, Pomona, and beyond. Internationally, some individuals have drawn attention to a presence in Mexico, parts of El Salvador, and notably the Philippines. Within the Philippines, the Pinoy Locos clique expanded after some members were deported from the United States and re-established ties in their country of origin, cliques and subsets. Over time, a wide variety of subgroups or cliques formed under Temple Street. These include, but are not limited to, Coronado Street Locos, Cutthroats, Death Boy Locos, Dukes Michael, Torina Locos, Midget Locos, Mountain View Locos, Night Stalkers, Party Locos, Park, Dylan Locos, Pee Wee Locos, Pinoy Locos, Rosemont Locos, Satanas, Tiny Locos, Wild Bunch in South Los Angeles. The 52nd Street Tokers have been recognized, and in the San Fernando Valley, one finds cliques such as Valley Tokers and Sir Demon Kings. Some older cliques trace their lineage back to the 1950s and 1960s, while newer cliques formed as recently as the early 2000s. Community impact and official responses. As the group gained prominence, city authorities and law enforcement agencies took various steps to curtail its influence. Allegations of misconduct tied to clandestine activities, conflicts, and disputes emerged over many decades. Some members, past and present, have been accused or convicted of participating in conflicts involving controlled materials, property-related incidents, or other criminal enterprises. These issues occasionally put Temple Street at odds with local agencies and other organizations, triggering a range of injunctions and legal constraints. The 2008 injunction. In late December 2008, the City Attorney's Office sought a preliminary injunction specifically aimed at restricting public association among individuals officially designated as Temple Street members. The injunction applied to an area just under 1 square mile west of downtown Los Angeles. It established a 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew in that zone for those named in the injunction. They were also prohibited from associating in public with one another, from possessing controlled materials without authorization, and from engaging in threatening or harassing actions. While the judge's ruling did not ban an individual's freedom of movement outright, it established legal consequences for those found violating the specified conditions. Exemptions were theoretically allowed for legitimate reasons like work or emergencies, but only upon formal application. The Rampart Dimension. One of the most historically significant and controversial chapters linked to Temple Street involves the Rampart Division of the Los Angeles Police Department. The Rampart scandal, as it became known, revolved around allegations of widespread officer misconduct within the Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums unit. Several key figures emerged from these investigations: Rafael Perez, Sammy Martin, David McNee-Durden, Sergeant Guerrero, Michael Buchanan, Doyle Stepp. Additionally, local participants in the justice system included Deputy District Attorney Robert Grace, Deputy District Attorney Richard Rosenthal, Attorney Art Goldberg, Attorney Andrew Stein, Attorney Greg Yates. Allegations involving Temple Street members. A well-documented event from February 6, 1996 in the Rampart district became central to many allegations and later investigations. On that day, a man named Miguel Lizard Malfavon lost his life in what was reported a lethal conflict outside a McDonald's near Temple and Alvarado streets. Law enforcement arrived soon after, finding a witness named Sonia Flores in a distressed state. According to various accounts, Ms. Flores was taken into custody by officers Rafael Perez and Sammy Martin, and later provided statements that contributed to the arrest and conviction of 4 individuals reputedly affiliated with Temple Street. Among them was Anthony Stymie Adams. Years after the convictions, Ms. Flores came forward with claims that she had not identified the suspects entirely on her own, but had been guided by Officer Perez in selecting individuals from photographs. Flores described her history with Perez, claiming she and Perez had a personal relationship. She also alleged that she initially tried to distance herself, but was persuaded to cooperate with the crash unit's version of events. Some contended that the manipulation of witness testimony helped authorities remove influential Temple Street figures from the neighborhood, effectively destabilizing local leadership. Statements from Ruben Rojas. Another individual, Ruben Rojas, also emerged with allegations that certain officers were intent on controlling the local trade of controlled materials. Rojas claimed that the Temple Street group was targeted because of the profits generated by illicit operations in the area. He went so far as to assert that the entire 1996 confrontation at the McDonald's was orchestrated by rogue officers to eliminate perceived rivals. However, Rojas, like many figures in these accounts, acknowledged that his prior record complicated the credibility of his statements, and official investigators encountered difficulty verifying all claims, broader investigations, and implications. Though Rafael Perez eventually testified to multiple incidents of corruption, most infamously involving the unjust wounding of an individual named Javier Ovando, the full scope of wrongdoing has never been completely settled. Some of these episodes led to civil lawsuits and large financial settlements by the city of Los Angeles. While some details remain disputed, it is widely recognized that the Rampart scandal brought systemic issues to light, prompting changes in how the LAPD supervised specialized units and handled misconduct allegations, contemporary status, and educational perspective. In modern times, many members of Temple Street have dispersed or moved on, though the group continues to exist and is recognized by community leaders as part of Los Angeles' historical tapestry of street-based associations. Graffiti and tags occasionally mark areas historically associated with TST, reminding residents that the legacy has not disappeared. Some local non-profit organizations and youth intervention programs highlight how educational and vocational opportunities can help steer younger generations away from the clandestine activities and conflicts that once defined the area's reputation. Academic and law enforcement experts alike emphasize the value of understanding how social conditions, such as housing insecurity, economic challenges, and cultural barriers, can lead to the formation of such groups in the first place. Conclusion: Temple Street's multifaceted history is, at its core, a narrative that spans nearly a century. From its modest origins in the 1920s to expansions into the South Los Angeles region and the San Fernando Valley, and even internationally, Temple Street has drawn significant attention from community leaders, law enforcement, journalists, and historians. The Rampart scandal introduced another layer of complexity, revealing how certain offices manipulated or influenced the broader landscape for personal gain. Today, any real examination of Temple Street must consider its place in the larger social and cultural context of Los Angeles. While accounts of conflicts and secret operations persist in the public imagination, many community activists and local historians use Temple Street's story as a lens to discuss deeper societal concerns. These include socioeconomic inequalities, urban migration patterns, policing practices, and the ways in which diverse groups seek identity and community in sprawling cities. In summation, this documentary-style overview aims to share the historical record for educational and archival purposes. It stands as a reminder that behind any widely recognized name or collective, there lie individual stories, changing alliances, evolving leadership, and broader civic challenges that shape the cultural fabric of a city like Los Angeles.